By the start of the 11th century, Western Europe and the Catholic Church no longer faced threats from the Vikings or Magyars and the likes, and this stability allowed the Christians to finally retake regions that had been conquered by Muslims, notably in Spain and southern Italy. However, there were numerous problems within the Catholic Church. First off, the East and West Church had split in the Great Schism. Plus, within Western Europe, the society was still incredibly violent, and both the Pope and the kings were trying to centralize their power and control. And subsequent events like the investiture controversy of 1075 helped awaken public interest in religious affairs and Christian piety. Also, Christian pilgrims had been returning from the Holy Land with news of atrocities, such as the destruction of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and attacks on the Great German Pilgrimage of 1065. Meanwhile, the Byzantine Empire had been struggling to fend off the rapidly expanding Seljuk Empire in the Middle East, especially after the Battle of Manzikert of 1071, which forced the Byzantines out of a lot of Anatolia. And although the Seljuk Empire split into smaller states, the Seljuks continued fighting the Byzantines and threatened Constantinople itself. So, in 1095, Emperor Alexius I Komnenos sent envoys to Pope Urban II to ask for assistance. Pope Urban jumped at the chance to unite Christendom behind him and away from the anti-Pope Clement III. He went to France and gave an impassioned sermon detailing the atrocities committed by Muslims in order to recruit the nobility to the cause. The word spread and powerful princes such as Robert Duke of Normandy, Raymond IV of Toulouse, Bohemond of Toronto and Godfrey of Boulogne heeded the call and made their own way to the mustering point in Constantinople. However, the first to arrive in Constantinople was a group of poorly trained peasants led by a priest, Peter the Hermit. They arrived in August 1096 and moved quickly into Anatolia. However, this People's Crusade was quickly crushed by the Seljuks. The official Crusaders arrived in Constantinople the following spring and agreed to return all former Byzantine territory back to the Emperor before moving into Anatolia. There, they captured Nicaea in June 1097, and at the start of July they defeated the Seljuks at the Battle of Dorylaeum, freeing up their path across Anatolia. By October they had reached the important city of Antioch and lay siege. However, they could not fully surround the city, so the siege lasted longer than expected. By February, with increasing casualties, there was a disagreement between Bohemond and the Byzantine general Tatikios. Tatikios withdrew from the siege, so Bohemond withdrew from the previous agreements with the Byzantines, but the Byzantines had already strengthened their position in Anatolia. Shortly afterwards, Baldwin of Boulogne persuaded the Christian ruler of Edessa to name him heir, and he formed a new county on the border of Armenia. Meanwhile, news emerged that a powerful Muslim army was advancing onto Antioch. So Bohemond bribed an Armenian guard on the tower, and they entered the city in early June and slaughtered the Muslims within. The advancing Seljuk army under Kurbaga arrived at Antioch just days later and lay siege to the city themselves. But within the city, a French priest discovered what he thought was the lance that stabbed Jesus. This boosted the morale of the Crusaders, who then marched out of the city and defeated the besiegers, finally giving them control over the city. Bohemond was crowned Prince of Antioch and remained in the city as the others under the command of Godfrey of Boulogne pushed south for Jerusalem. They finally made it to Jerusalem in June 1099, and the city had just been retaken by the Fatimids the previous year. The Crusaders set about building siege engines with the help of resupplies from Italy. They assaulted and successfully captured the city in mid-June and once again massacred the inhabitants. Then, with a greatly diminished but very experienced force, the Crusaders marched out to meet the Fatimids at Ascalon. They emerged victorious despite being outnumbered and secured their control over Jerusalem. Godfrey of Boulogne died just 1 year later, but his brother Baldwin accepted the title of King of Jerusalem in 1100, giving his former title as Count of Edessa over to his cousin, Baldwin of Baroque. Now the Crusaders held pockets of land across the Levant, however many believed their mission was complete so returned home, so it would take further wars and crusades to expand and cement their control in the region.